Hello everybody. So this is a part of the concepts workshop for physics. Is a preparation for various entrance examinations. This is a segment particularly for mathematical physics. In these two couple of sessions, we will cover a few concepts on probability. Particularly in this lecture, we will cover the basic elements of probability theory and random variables. And in the upcoming next session, we will also discuss about these different kinds of distributions and central limit theorem. Along the way, we will also solve a few problems in all of these topics. Alright, so to begin with, what is the idea of probability theory? What is probability? What is the concept of probability? So the concept of probability begins to basically deal with random events that happen. So it is to deal with random events, or you can also say events that are subject to chance. Events that are subject to chance. So with all of these aspects, you can associate with all of these events which are subject to chance, you can associate a particular probability. So some basic definitions that we shall be using throughout. So I would like to particularly spell out those definitions. One is the idea of sample space. So the sample space, what is a sample space? Sample space is the set of all all possible events, or you can also call as the set of all possible outcomes. If you're doing typically some experiment, then you would typically call each value to be some sort of an outcome. So sample space can be considered as a set of all possible outcomes during an experiment, or in other scenario, you can call it as a set of all possible events. So a typical example would be, let us take the most one of the most simplest examples is a coin toss. So in a coin toss, what are the possible set of events that can be seen? Is that you either get a heads or tails. So the sample space will be just the set of heads and tails. Uh, Let us remember that sample space has nothing to do with probability. It is just a set of all possible events or all possible outcomes in an experiment. So we have not associated any probability to each event here. Similarly, another example is the case of a dice. In the case of a dice, the sample space is slightly bigger. You have six different possibilities. You can get a number from 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 5 up to 6. So this is the typical example of what a sample space is. Now, having defined what a sample space is, one has to look for what is probability. So what is probability? So given in a sample space, if there is a sample space, it's a set of a lot of events. In this sample space, the probability of ith event of any particular ith event, you can define it as the number of outcomes of event I, number of outcomes which gives me an event I, divided by the total number of outcomes. Or in another way, typically if you have to define this for experiments, you can also define it as the number of times event I occurs divided by the total number of all events. So this is how we typically define probability for any event in a sample space. So if I have to give a typical example, most of which you guys are already familiar, is that in a dice toss, the sample space is already given as the set of these numbers, and in particular, if I assume all all these numbers are equally probable, which means getting a 1 is equally probable as getting a 2 or getting a 3. So getting all these numbers are equally probable. In that case, probability of getting any number, probability of getting a 2, let us say, it is going to be 2 occurs one time divided by all the possible numbers, the total number of events in the sample space, which is 6. So this is 2 by 6. Oh, sorry, 1 by 6. Probability of getting a 2 is 1 by 6. Similarly, probability of getting a number greater than 2. In this case, you will have to consider all the possible events in which the number is greater than 2, which would correspond to 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 4 events, and the total number of events is 6. So the probability will be 2 by 3. So this is typically how we calculate probability of each event in a sample space uh, based on based on certain based on a certain knowledge that either all these numbers are equally probable, or there could be some sort of a distribution over which they have different probabilities. So having understood what probability is, some rules that probability basic rules followed by probability are. So these are quite simple basic rules which will be useful if you can remember them. It will be useful to calculate the probability of different kinds of events that you will be asked about. So of course, one important rule is that sum of probability of all events in the sample space, if you include all the events in the sample space and calculate the probability of each and take a sum over all of them, it will be equal to 1. Sum of all the events, sum over I, sum of all the events I in the sample space, it will be equal to 1. And the other rule is probability of any given event, probability of any event I, let us call it Pi, this number will always be taking a value between 0 and 1. And then going further, we have two of the most important rules of probability, which is about one is about mutually exclusive events. So if there is an event A, if events A and B are mutually exclusive, if events A and B are mutually exclusive, then the probability of A and B occurring, so the probability of A and B occurring is equal to probability of A plus probability of B. So please keep this in mind. It will be very useful later. Whenever two events are mutually exclusive, which means if event A happens, event B will not happen. And if event B happens, A will not happen. So that is what mutually exclusive means. So if two events are mutually exclusive, and so then if you want to calculate the probability of both of the events, then their probability is simply just the sum over their individual probability. So mutually exclusive events, for them you have to consider sum. And what will happen for events that are independent? So independent events. So if A and B are independent events, then probability of A and B will be a product of their individual probabilities. So these are the two important rules which we will significantly use in some of our questions to easily, calculate the probability of two events simultaneously. So independent events, the probabilities multiply, and if events are mutually exclusive, the probabilities add. Okay, so and some basic idea of set theory, in you can also have some basic idea of probabilities in the language of set theory. If you have to use the language of set theory, you can consider the probabilities of two events. Let us consider the total sample space. Let this box be the set of all possible events which will correspond to S. So this S is the total sample space. S is the sample space. And let there be two events which are, let us say, A and B inside this sample space. So this is some event A and this is some event B. Now, now in this case, all the events in the sample space are basically subsets of the sample space. So whenever we are calculating the probabilities, we from the language of set theory, we know that this particular region is called A intersection B, and the region encompassing both the sets throughout if you consider the region covered by both the sets, then that particular region is called as A union B. This is called A intersection B and A union B. So if we have to calculate the probabilities of these intersection and union, there are certain basic rules. For example, probability of A union B, that is the probability of both A and B happening, can be equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. So basically, in order to avoid double counting, we have to subtract this region in which has been already included in the individual probabilities of A and B. So probability of A union B is equal to this. Similarly, I can also write the probability of A intersection B based on this formula itself. So using these concepts, we can also give the concept of conditional probability. So what is conditional probability? So conditional probability is basically if there are a set of events, if let us say an event B occurs, given that event A has already occurred. In that case, this probability is denoted by probability of B given A. This straight line here indicates that probability of B given that event A has already occurred. So this is called as the conditional probability. Conditional probability because it is the probability of B on condition that A has already occurred. So this conditional probability P of B given A is given by probability of A intersection B divided by probability of A. Now, if probability if events A and B are independent, then the probability of A intersection B is simply the product of these two events, these two individual probabilities. In such a case, then my probability of B given A will just simply be probability of B, because it does not matter whether A has happened or not, because these two events are independent. Otherwise, one has to use this formula. Alright, so before proceeding further, let us solve a couple of problems using the concepts that we have learned. Let us take the first problem, which is basically a problem on dice. So the problem is a dice is thrown 3 times, and the question is, what is the probability that the sum of the obtained numbers add up to 16? This is the question. So the first thing we have to consider is the sum that is required is 16. So we'll have to find out what are the different ways in which we can obtain 16. What are the different combinations of numbers, combinations of events that can give me the number total to be 16. So for example, the number of different events that can give a sum 16 will be 5, 5, 6, and all different permutations of the same 5, 6, 5, and 6, 5, 5. Then another possibility is 4, 6, 6, or 4, 6, oh, sorry, 4, 6, 6, and 6, 4, 6, 6, 6, 4. So these are all the possible ways that we can get the sum to be 16. There are no other possibilities. Now, what is the probability of each event in this? The probability of, let us take the case of 5, 5, 6. The probability of getting a 5 in the first toss is 1 by 6. And the probability of getting another 5 in the next toss is also 1 by 6. Subsequently, in the third time, again, the probability to get 6 is 1 by 6. So let us assume that this is a fair dice. So if that is the case, then each of them have a probability of 1 by 6 in each toss. Since they are independent events, each toss is an independent event. Each toss is an independent event. So we'll have to, the total probability will be the product of all these three, which is 1 by 6 cube, 1 by 216. Now, each of these events, in a way, will have a probability of 1 by 216. So how many of them are there? There are 6 of them. So 6 by 216 will be the total probability, because each of these events happening are mutually exclusive. So 5, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, or so on, are all mutually exclusive events. So when you have mutually exclusive events, and if each of them have a probability 1 by 216, then you just add over all of them. There are 6 of them, so you will have 6 into 1 by 216, which gives me a probability of 1 by 36, which is the answer for this particular case. Okay, so let us also have a look at another problem. In this problem, we have two boxes in which there are black and white balls. The first box has two black and three white balls, and the second box, it has three black and four white balls. Okay, so now if you pick a ball in random from these two boxes, what is the probability that this ball will be white? What is the probability of getting a white ball? Okay, so in this scenario, there are two set of events. So first of all, let us take the case that there are two boxes. In the first box, there are two black balls, three white balls, and in the second box, similarly, you have 3 black balls and 4 white balls. So now choosing each box is a is basically one event in which we will assume both the boxes have an equal probability of being chosen. So probability of choosing the box, it is half for this and half for this. Okay, so that is the first probability. And in the first box, probability of getting white ball is equal to, there are totally 5 balls. The probability of getting a white ball is 3 by 5. Similarly, in the second box, probability of getting a white is, in a total of 7, there are 4 white balls. So 4 by 7 is the probability. Now, in what is the effective probability of getting a white ball from these two boxes is basically, first thing is, picking a box is independent of picking a ball. So, and then there are two boxes. So picking a white ball from this box is mutually exclusive from picking a white ball in this box. So these two are mutually exclusive events, and so that will be, there will be a sum over those two, half of this, half for this, and after you have picked this particular box, the probability of getting a white ball is 3 by 5. And here we multiply because picking a ball and picking a box are independent events. Picking a box and ball are independent. So we multiply those two probabilities. Likewise, here the probability is 4 by 7. So the effective probability will be half into 3 by 5 plus 4 by 7. 3 by 5, and this will be equal to 41 by 70. So this is typically how we use these simple elemental rules in probability to solve these problems. Before proceeding further to random variables, we'll also learn some basic rules of counting, counting statistics or counting statistics. Basically, two different methods of counting statistics that are very commonly used is a combination and a permutation. So what is the permutation? A permutation, it is basically nothing but a number of ways to arrange n particles. Let us take the example of particles. Number of ways to arrange some n particles in a specific order. So all possible ways of arrangement will totally effectively give me n into n minus 1 into so on up to 1, which is called as the n factorial. But if you have another condition saying that number of ways to arrange n particles in a specific order in k boxes, then this will be given by n factorial divided by n minus k factorial. This is also sometimes denoted as npk. Similarly, in the case of combinations, it is the same thing, but we ignore in what order it is arranged. So in the case of combination, it is just the number of ways to arrange n particles in k boxes. This is given by n factorial by n minus k factorial into k factorial. So this is the case when we ignore the specific order as well. This is also called as, this particular term is sometimes denoted by NCK, and it is also called as the binomial coefficient. So we will see that this is very useful when we are calculating a binomial expansion or defining the binomial distribution in probability theory. Okay, so with that, proceeding further towards what are random variables. So basically what random variables are. Random variables are nothing but variables. Let us say any variable x which is allowed to take, which can take, that can take a value from a given sample space with an associated probability. So as we see more and more examples, it will be more clear what a random variable is. So specifically, there are two particular types. One is the discrete random variable, and the other, of course, is the continuous random variable. So let us take this example. Then let us take some examples of discrete random variables. Specific examples are, let us say, the number of the face of uh, die stores. So if x is my random variable, then x can take a value from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is very simple case of a random variable. A slightly more complex case is if you have two dice, then let us call x as the sum of numbers from both the dice. Then x can take values. See, the minimum value x can take is 2, because the minimum number that can come from each dice toss is 1 and 1. So that minimum value will be 2, and the maximum value can be 6 plus 6. So the maximum value will be 12, and then all the other possible numbers in the middle will be there. So this is the sample space that x can take, and x is the random number here. So similarly, another simpler example can also be, which we will use in binomial probability distribution, is number of times of getting hits in 100 tosses. So the number of times you can get hits can be from, you can even get 0 hits, that all the 100 tosses are tails, or you can get 1 hit. Likewise, up to you can get a maximum of 100 hits. So here n is the random variable, which is also a discrete random variable. All these are examples of discrete random variables. Basically, they take values which are discrete, like integers. And the other case is continuous random variables. In the continuous random variables, basically what changes is the sample space is continuous now. Unlike in the previous case where the sample space was always discrete, here the sample space is continuous. So a typical example would be if x is the height of height of students in a class given in, let us say, given in meters. So the x can take different values, somewhere between 1.5 to 1.63, all sorts of values. So this will be basically a continuous set of numbers. And similarly, from quantum mechanics, we know that mod psi of x mod square, psi of x mod square into dx. This is the probability of finding the particle in the region dx in one dimension. So here also, since x is continuous, this probability, which is a function of x, is also continuous. So this is here x is a continuous random variable. So these are some typical examples of what random variables are. So we will end this session with these discussions. The next session we will discuss about different distributions and what are the different properties that random variables can have and the different kinds of distributions that are possible.